tell you why I decided. We got two more witnesses, both about an hour each. The lawyers sometimes get it right and get it wrong about how long. I'm gonna do one more, so we'll work about another hour. We're gonna adjourn today about 5. Just then roughly 5 tomorrow. Is that right, gentlemen? About 5, thereabouts? 5 witnesses tomorrow.
We've got one, assuming they call both defendants, I think there's only 1 or 2 left.
Okay. Well, young Mr. Martin represented, he thought 4. Tomorrow, I'm postponing one tomorrow. It makes 5 by my math.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go with that.
You're right, it doesn't make any difference.
I did tell the lawyers, so y'all know this, is when they do a deposition like that, I can't say move on and hasten it a little bit, so we get what we get. Now, had it been live, it'd have been a little shorter. All right, Mr. Ball, this is your witness, you call him first.
Yes, sir.
Well, you finally out of the battle
They won't
box.
let you play.
Okay, call your witness.
Dr. Kenneth Sustrong.
Sir, you can just come around this way.
And we got that deposition was admitted for purpose of today's hearing, that we just saw.
Should I do it?
Yes, sir.
You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give the court in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I did.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mark, have us the report.
She's got 2 hands, she needs 5. All right, we're gonna go back, and she's gonna put that we accepted the deposition of the forensic toxicologist for purpose of hearing, and whatever that stipulation is.
Defendant's Exhibit 59.
59. And you just marked some new exhibits, and the witness you just called's name is,
Kenneth Sustrong.
and I expect you better spell that for her.
It's Soderstrom.
And he's been placed under oath. Now, talk about your exhibits.
I marked 2. The clerk's marked 2, and I have copies for Your Honor. It's a copy of this witness's CV and report. I just thought you may or may not want a reference. Doctor, did you give us your full name already? You did, didn't you?
I gave you my last name. I spelled it.
Okay. And could you tell us where you're employed and what your position is?
I'm a professor of pharmacology at East Carolina University
In the Brody School of
in the
Medicine.
Brody School of Medicine. That's right.
Okay. Now you're not an MD doctor.
I am not an MD. I teach the MDs and the other health science students.
You're a PhD doctor. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you've been asked by me to give some opinion in this case. Is that right?
That's right.
Now, and I sent you materials that you base that on. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And so the opinions you're going to give, they have nothing to do with ultimate conclusion of fault or liability or immunity. I'm asking you opinions about pharmacology and toxicology. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you've been asked to give any opinion about whether somebody's legally entitled to any status, immunity or whatever, right?
I don't even know what that means.
Okay. Now, you had a written representation agreement with me, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I'd like to show it to you. This one's not marked, but I have disclosed it, Your Honor. I want to refer you to that sentence that's highlighted. Could you read it?
The consultant's services are provided independently of their role as a university faculty. All opinions and assessments will be grounded in objective facts without consideration for favorability of outcomes.
Okay, I want to break that down. First and foremost, your opinions have nothing to do with East Carolina University, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then secondly, what did you put in there, this last part about assessments will be grounded in objective facts without consideration for favorability of outcomes? What does that mean?
That means you provided me with evidence. I looked at the evidence, and the conclusions I came to were just based on that evidence and not what I thought you wanted or anybody else. It's what I thought the evidence indicated.
Let's talk a little bit about your credentials. Exhibit 47A is being projected, Your Honor, and is this your CV?
Yes.
Could you narrate for us basically your education experience by referring to the paper copy you have or that one on the screen, whichever you're most comfortable with?
I'm sorry, what would you like me to do?
Well, I want you can confirm that's you.
Oh, that is me, yes.
That's you, okay. And I wanted to draw your attention to the next page with well experience. How long have you been a PhD doctor?
I got my PhD in 1998, and I started working at the Brody School of Medicine in 2001.
Okay, and what is your concentration of study in your doctoral program?
We'll probably stipulate that he's an expert in pharmacology.
Thank you. That will save us some time.
That'll save some time.
But even with that stipulation, I would like to jump over to the next page.
And since we're going for jury, it's not necessary to explain to the jury. I understand I've had experts in pharmacology present before, so
Very
I was
good.
so qualified.
Very well.
If he's going to read the CV, we take it back.
Okay.
Do you know how many publications you've had, Doctor?
I don't. It's a modest number compared to a lot of people, but it's not insignificant.
Well, if I were to submit to you there's 41 on your CV, does that sound reasonable?
Sounds about right, yeah.
Okay. And for those of us who don't publish papers, that doesn't seem so modest.
Well, it took a long time to do that.
Okay. So, based on your education and training, your teaching and research, do you believe you have specialized knowledge in pharmacology and toxicology and the central nervous system effects that can assist this court in understanding toxicology and
Yes.
behavior-related evidence?
I believe so, yes.
And that's what I've asked you to do, is that
That's right.
Okay. And you've given some opinions in your written report, right?
I did, yes.
And those opinions, were they grounded in scientific fact?
They were based on the evidence you provided. There wasn't that much evidence. It wasn't really that much, but it all kind of fell together. It's remarkable the way it fell together.
Okay. I want to direct your attention to your report, which is the one in front of you, marked 47B. And you have, is there a paper copy in front of you? I need to hand you one.
Thank you.
So I've handed you 47B. Do you recognize it?
I do.
Is that a copy of your report?
This is a copy of the report I prepared, yes.
Okay. And did you sign it?
I did.
And at the time that you provided this report, that was when you had completed your analysis and research, right?
That's right. It was a little over a year ago.
Okay. For the court, we moved to admit 47A and B as the CV and the doctor's report.
A is the first one, B time, Dr. Newsroom. 47B is the report after examining the evidence presented to him by this case.
Okay. Now, you were provided a laboratory analysis report by me, is that right?
That's right, yes.
Okay. Do you recall, can you tell me, reporter, do you recall what that laboratory analysis indicated about Mr. Scott Spivey?
Indicated a few things. The first was testosterone level 4.1, which is, there are no normal limits. Testosterone levels are all over the map, so that wasn't unexpected. There was BAC of 0.13 and caffeine, and I don't recall anything else right now.
Okay. And in fact, there was a negative finding in the NMS laboratory.
Okay,
for
sure,
the
yes.
So anabolic steroids, right?
That's right. So they tested a series of metabolites of abused steroids, and there are many, many abused steroids. And so the way you detect this is you look for the breakdown products in the urine, and that's what the NMS laboratories did, and they did not detect any of the breakdown products.
Doctor, is that, when it comes to steroids, does that end the analysis?
It doesn't, and that is because of the way that steroids are taken when they're abused. They're taken in courses. And so a person will take them for a week or two until they experience toxicity, and then they take a break. And
What are some examples of toxicity which might cause someone to take a break?
GI upset, arrhythmias. Those are the two that I remember right now.
Okay. And so, if you've got a situation such as this, where you've been asked to look and opine as to whether or not the presence of anabolic steroids were a factor in this case, in this tragedy, what kinds of information would you want to have in addition to the report from NMS Labs?
An interview with the person, that would tell the whole story, I guess. But a history, maybe people that he worked with or worked out with, if he, went to the gym, things like that.
That would have been ideal, wouldn't it?
That would be ideal, yes.
We didn't have that in this case, as I explained. So, let's take a look at page 3 of the report. And would it be fair to say that the third page of the report narrates what you looked at?
Yes, so it goes through six pieces of evidence that I looked at. Again, really not too much.
Well, can you kind of cite to us what they are?
Let's see, a forensic autopsy, a supplemental report, so this is the NMS Laboratories, bar tab, listing a number of drinks, report prepared by the Horry County Police Department Drug Analysis Laboratory, and so that was analyzing the contents of some capsules that were found in the truck, and that was the first odd thing that came together. So it was odd that there were these abused steroids in that truck, and at first I thought this might be just a red herring. I thought, well, that's just kind of a strange thing. I didn't really think too much of it. Let's see, going further, photo of the black truck, labeled Spivey's truck on Highway 9, and a series of 5 witness statements. Those witness statements were interesting.
They were collected by who?
They were collected by the police there, the
Okay.
Horry County Police, and they were very consistent. That jumped right out at me.
Well, look, with specificity, whose statements did you review, Doctor?
Okay. It was Charles W. Boyd, Terry A. Wright, Lindsay McMorrow, Francis E. McMorrow, and Blase Adrian Ward. Not sure I pronounced that properly.
Let me ask you, do you know any of those people?
I do not.
You know who they are?
No.
You know any? Have you ever been to Conway before?
I have not. It's a nice place.
And so you know anybody in this courtroom besides me?
I do not, and I met you this morning.
Okay. And so you reviewed these witness statements. And tell us, how are witness statements, like in these witness statements, how are they relevant to the undertaking of an analysis by a PhD doctor as yourself and to offering opinion about the use or effect of anabolic steroids?
Well, let's see, we just heard the forensic toxicologist talk about how you wouldn't want to make any behavioral conclusions without behavioral evidence. And this was the behavioral evidence that he was referring to. And so I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, let me see if I got it. The demonstrated behavior as provided by witnesses who observed.
That's right.
Is relevant to the analysis.
So, this dramatic event, terrible event, and the remarkable thing was that that they all were consistent. There wasn't any inconsistencies, and I guess I haven't seen too much of this in the past. But when you have accounts of situations, it seems that there are usually discrepancies. It's like, what really happened? This was, I thought, remarkably consistent, which I think was because it was so terrible and so dramatic. There was an emotional component because we remember things that are emotional. That's how we really remember things well.
Well, what did the police lab report conclude about these pills that you described being in the truck?
That they were the abused anabolic steroid, and I'll use the brand name because it's easy to say, Dianabol. And it was a CBA product, so a legitimate pharmaceutical. Came out in the early 1960s. It was pulled from the market for liver and cardiac toxicity in the early 1980s. And it has since been available in other countries, Mexico being a prime example. And that might be where it comes into the U.S. from.
When this drug was used in this country, what was it used for?
It was used for things like wasting, cachexia, muscle loss, maybe associated with age, and not getting enough nutrition, osteoporosis. And so, what this type of drug does is it ramps up metabolism, and it will put on muscle mass, and it will make your bones stronger, and essentially it will just rev all sorts of metabolic processes up. And unfortunately, that includes the heart and the liver.
Well, in your research, and I think the lab report called it methandienone, is that right?
Yeah. There's a couple different names for it. This is typical of drugs. You have generic names, you have brand names. Sometimes you have more than one brand name, so it gets very confusing.
Well, from your research, why was the drug taken off the market in the States?
It was taken off the market for cardiac and liver side effects. It was toxic.
What types of side effects?
Liver function, liver toxicity, so your liver doesn't work as well, and cardiac toxicities, including this atherosclerosis. So that's this plaque buildup in coronary arteries.
So earlier, you said when you read the report, and I'm paraphrasing, if I get it wrong, you tell me, but you didn't think a whole lot of these pills being in the truck at first.
I didn't at first. I thought, well, he was 33 years old, so young guy. I'm trying to think of people that I've known. I've known people that have abused anabolic steroids, and the people that I know who have abused them didn't use them for very long because of side effects. But kind of fits the profile. Maybe somebody just gave them to him, and he was going to try them for a while. I didn't immediately conclude that there was a serious abuse issue associated with the anabolic steroid, but I did come to the conclusion that if you're going to have a controlled substance, either you're going to sell it or you're going to use it. And I think it was 26 capsules, and so that's more falling into the use rather than sell category.
Do you remember how they were packaged from the report?
They were, if I remember right, it was like a baggie, maybe a Ziploc bag.
Not a prescription bottle.
No.
And if this gentleman that we're here about was born in 1990, he would have been born after this drug was taken off the market.
That's right, yes.
So,
I think it was off the market in 1983.
So what specifically in your research of this case and the records I sent you changed your mind about any relevance to these steroids?
What brought it all together was the autopsy report.
And how did it do that?
There was a note of a 50% coronary artery occlusion. And there was also some evidence of liver toxicity.
And what kind of evidence is that? How was liver toxicity evidence?
It was cholesterol staining of the gallbladder. That was the liver toxicity. The atherosclerosis, the occlusion of the artery, was a plaque buildup, calcification, fibrosis, occluding that artery. And so that's a moderate to severe level, which is remarkably unusual in someone who isn't at least 50.
And is this the portion of, on the screen here, is this the portion of your report where you're referring to that?
Okay, I don't see anything about the
Well, let's talk about this.
autopsy.
Let's talk about this drug name. Is this what you're
Oh.
talking about?
Right, yeah, there's the SEVA, it's the SEVA product, Dianabol.
And it was discontinued, right? in
That's
83?
right.
Okay. So let's jump down the report to page. All right. I think you're on page 5, the top of your report. You see that?
Okay, yes, I'm there.
Could you take a look at the top portion of the 5th page? And up at the top, it has a heading of various.
Exogenous anabolic steroids
Yes, sir.
were negative, that's right.
Okay.
And
And you said that the analysis is not in there, right?
that's right, they did not detect any metabolites of this abused anabolic steroid that was found in his truck.
Yet you have these anatomical changes that were revealed in the autopsy report.
Correct, that would be consistent with this drug.
So tell us, if you had long-term use of anabolic steroid drugs, how does it affect the body? Could you just explain?
It will change physiology. So the way a steroid works is it alters gene expression. And what that really means practically is it takes a long time to start working, and after it works, its effects will be sustained for a long time. So these are slowly acting but long-term acting drugs. And the problem with this drug was it did what you wanted it to do in terms of muscle mass and osteoporosis and adrenal insufficiency. I see that I've missed up there. But in addition, it's also causing these cardiac and liver problems. So you're getting good effects. It's a good drug if you need to put on muscle mass fast, but there's a price to be paid. And this is true of all drugs. There's a side effect associated with every drug. This is, a particularly severe one.
So, and you're talking about the effects in those comments about, I guess, the major organs of the body.
That's right.
I want to shift to the effects of the brain.
Right.
So could you narrate it for us?
So,
Explain.
So anabolic steroid has characteristic effects on brain physiology, just like cardiac, just like liver, just like muscle, just like bone. If you're having these physiological effects in other systems, you're going to have effects to some extent in the brain also. And the typical changes in the brain associated with these drugs, and particularly this one, is a hypertrophy of the amygdala, which is kind of the part of the brain that is involved in emotional processing. And so you're getting more activity, just speaking kind of generally, in the amygdala, emotional processing, and less in the frontal cortex. And the frontal cortex is associated with executive function, decision making. And there's been research looking at hundreds of patients, and these changes are subtle. It's not like you would see them in one person, maybe. You see them in a population of people. And so this increased, compared to controls of amygdala, decreased frontal cortex, and changes in the connections between them.
Okay, and how might the change in the connections between them manifest themselves in behavior?
You would have an increase in emotional processing and less control of the frontal cortex over that. So the consequence is increased or a decreased trigger for an emotional response, and a decreased ability to filter that response. So you have this part of the brain amygdala saying, there's this terrible thing happening, or you're interpreting something as negative that's really neutral. This is kind of a characteristic problem. And you don't have the executive part of your brain to evaluate it and to say it's not really that bad, or this is really not a good idea, we should not do this.
So you heard Attorney Hanna ask Dr. Brower about the term, I think, roid rage, or one
Yes.
maybe it was Mr. Martin who asked, one of the attorneys
Yes.
asked.
And I would agree that you might want to avoid that term. What I think might be a valid description of what happened there, and I don't know, and this is one of the things I would like to know, is if it was a road rage, not a roid rage. But I think road rage is kind of more common, and that's a trigger. And so something triggered this. And I think that there was a decreased ability to cope with that trigger.
So there were no metabolites, is that what you said?
There was no metabolites. And so again, the way that these steroids are abused are in courses. You use them until you start noticing bad side effects, then you take a break. And then you come back to it later. And so it's a cyclical sort of thing.
So the effects you described in one's brain, how the side effects of that in the brain, and the processing in the brain, and the ability to reason with your impulses, is that a fair way to say that?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's not necessarily an acute effect of the drug. So this would be a persistent change that's occurred. And so the behavioral effect would be sustained and long-lasting. And so, just like the increased muscle mass would be sustained during the break, so would all of the other effects, including the behavioral effects.
So the fact that you didn't find that in the presence of a tested urine specimen, that doesn't change?
That didn't bother me, no. That wasn't, that made sense. That and the dilute urine, maybe that had something to do with not detecting it.
Let's switch gears a little bit to alcohol. Now you saw analysis of the blood alcohol content of the heart blood, is that right?
That's right, yes.
And you also saw in that same report that they tested the vitreous fluid from the eye, is that right?
Yes,
And you considered both of those things, is that right?
that's right.
In fact, when you were deposed, at that time it'd be fair to say you weren't sure which one of those was the more appropriate or gold standard to use.
I didn't think it mattered. I thought, the evidence here is clear that we've had a significant consumption of alcohol. And it's no more complicated than that. Alcohol is a factor here. And I agree with the forensic toxicologist that there can be, individuals vary greatly in the degree of their effects. And over time, there is a biphasic sort of intoxication that occurs with alcohol. And I don't think the toxicologist mentioned that.
Could you explain it to us?
I don't know if I can explain it, but I can address it. So your initial ascending phase of alcohol intoxication starts with a euphoria and you're feeling good, and your poor judgment manifests fairly early. So that gets started fairly quickly. before your motor coordination really starts. And the evidence for your decision-making problem is you drink 2 beers, and that makes you think that you need 2 more beers. And you know before you had your first beer that I'm not going to drink more than 2 beers, kind of what the forensic toxicologist said. I'm not going to get behind the wheel, and then you find yourself behind the wheel. Not a good idea. You're just not making good decisions very early in this ascending course. And then the euphoria goes away, and a depressive sort of stage comes in. And it's not fun anymore. If you go really high, then you get this gross motor incoordination where you can't walk straight, and maybe you can't even stand up straight. So that would be at a really high level, but you have the decision-making problems. So you peak and you come back down, and so you get it kind of on both sides, but you don't get the euphoria coming back down. You just have, at that point, the toxic metabolites are taking over, and it just doesn't feel good. It's not fun during that stage. Your motor capabilities may come back. There are things that we learn. Driving is an example. Tying your shoes. I tied my shoes this morning and I don't remember doing it. It's a motor program that's ingrained. It's fairly low level after doing it so many times. Driving, we can carry on a conversation on the phone. We can do a lot of things like that, and those types of program behaviors seem to be less susceptible to ethanol intoxication. Fine motor skills, learning something, sensory motor learning, that's gone.
So every individual is different, is that fair to say?
Every individual is different, that's true, and depending on experience. And so there are people who can consume heroic amounts of alcohol who are tolerant to it. These are people who have alcoholism.
In that light, someone who consumed alcohol on a regular basis, who may have more tolerance for it, would they perhaps demonstrate cognitive defects in terms of reasoning or judgment and not have motor control issues?
Yes, I would agree that that's possible. These are different systems, and they have different sensitivity to the alcohol. So different parts of the brain respond differently, and it's hard to predict. Alcohol is a very complex drug.
Okay. Well, what kinds of behavior, in looking at your report, what kinds of behavior would the witnesses' statements in review contribute to your opinions?
The witnesses described.
I believe you're on page 6 of your report, Doctor.
Okay.
You're welcome, if you recall, you're
Right.
welcome to recite it, but if you'd like to refer to the report, I want you to have it.
Well, they all consistently described, what I would characterize as a road, not a roid, but a road rage incident.
Okay.
Some conflict between drivers that got started, I don't know where, that's not here, but it was, a tragic event, clearly. And there was bad decision-making, clearly.
Okay. What neural systems are affected in it, or what neural systems come into play in the decision-making about this?
So, the aggressive, the unreasonable, the very violent parts of the brain are this amygdala, and again, you have frontal cortex that usually, thank goodness, most of us have control over that. We may have the urge, and that's coming from these amygdala sort of brain regions, but we can control it, and there was a loss of that control.
Okay. And does alcohol specifically affect these two portions of the
It will
brain?
do that. It's consistent with alcohol, and it's consistent with long-term effects of anabolic steroid abuse.
Okay. Doctor, from your perspective as a pharmacologist, and you're both a pharmacologist and a toxicologist, is that right?
I would say so. I would say all pharmacologists are also toxicologists.
Okay. So from your perspective as a pharmacologist, does significant intoxication and likely steroid-associated behavior increase the probability of sudden, irrational, and violent actions?
I think we can be confident that it contributed, yes. That both of those things, the alcohol and the steroids, contributed to this.
Is that consistent with a situation where a person might escalate to using lethal force quickly or unpredictably?
I think it would reduce the chance that you were going to decide and understand and realize that this is a bad decision. It would decrease the probability that you would catch yourself and just not do it. Okay, we've got to tone this down now.
Well, with those substance-related effects, is it cerebral cortex? The
Frontal cortex?
The frontal cortex. If it's not working as it's supposed to, would that, how would a person who encountered someone who was experiencing this know that?
You couldn't talk sense into them and do that sort of thing. It's like you got to calm down. You got to calm down, and I think we probably all have encountered somebody that we couldn't just calm down. Somebody just couldn't calm down.
Okay, but if you weren't communicating with them and you were just seeing them and seeing their conduct, how would somebody who experienced an individual like that with those drug-related characteristics, how would somebody interpret?
In a situation like this,
Yes, sir.
it would be somebody who was agitated and angry, and I would say agitated is.
Well, if the decedent, in this case, Mr. Spivey, is intoxicated and exhibiting aggressive and impulsive conduct, does it increase the risk that brandishing or discharging a weapon could occur without any warning?
I would say yes, but I would qualify it as it would increase the risk of that behavior being triggered and then not avoided. It's like you have an urge to do this, and then you realize not a good idea. You would have your reason take over and avoid that.
Could I direct you to page 7 of your report, Doctor? You have a section called Overall Conclusions, and I'd like you to walk us through that, if you would.
Okay. So I guess I'll just read it.
You could read a sentence at a time and explain it, or however you feel
I
comfortable.
write better than I talk, so I should just read what I've written here. Cardiovascular and hepatic abnormalities.
You can read a lot faster than she likes to listen. She's
Oh, I'm
taking
sorry.
every sentence that you just go slow.
Okay. The cardiovascular and hepatic abnormalities noted during the autopsy are both, number one, rare in the population representative of the decedent. Conservative estimate is less than 5%, and that 5% is people who have cardiac problems. Less than 5% have a stenosis that is that great.
And you've actually cited some authorities for
Yes,
this, right?
I cited the papers. I thought it was an odd thing seeing it on the autopsy. That just doesn't sound right in a young man. And then looking into it, it's like that was the pieces falling together.
And the authority you cite for is attached to your report is, I think, footnote 7 and 8, is that right?
Yeah, I cited all of the literature that I got this from, and I cited good papers.
And now, the fact that the decedent may or may not have had a family history of coronary heart disease,
Yeah.
does that in any way change your opinion?
That factors in, and
Can you tell us how?
that would increase the probability that this problem would be manifest. And so a statistic I read was that about 15% of people who chronically abuse anabolic steroids will have this type of problem with a cardiac plaque forming, stenosis forming.
So not everybody would have
Not
it.
everybody gets it, even though they're abusing anabolic steroids. This is a particularly bad anabolic steroid for that. But I would say that 15% that do have the problem are probably those who have the family history. They're going to be more likely to.
You mentioned earlier that it accelerated metabolism, is that right?
And I think of it as these drugs as aging, premature aging. They move everything up. Time accelerates.
Okay.
The heart's
I
getting
know.
older, brain's getting older, old cranky brain, that sort of thing.
I interrupted you. Please proceed with your overall conclusions, explaining to us what you determined.
Okay. So number 2, a well-established toxicity following anabolic steroid abuse, particularly that of meth and androstenedione alone. I should have just said dianabol. Co-occurrence of rare conditions, cardiac and hepatic abnormalities, and steroid abuse make it more than likely that they were related.
You cited 4 authorities for that proposition, didn't you?
Yes,
And your cited authorities are listed in your.
they are.
Okay. Please proceed.
Okay. This type of steroid abuse is also well established to contribute to persistent changes that interfere with normal CNS function, particularly in brain regions controlling emotional responses, impulse control, and decision making.
And is that exactly what you were talking about earlier when you talked about different regions of the brain?
This is what I was talking about, yes. Probably not very well, but that's what I was trying to communicate.
And indeed, there's a cited authority for that
Yes,
conclusion as well, is that right?
yes.
Please proceed.
From this, it is reasonable to conclude that the otherwise rare, irrational, and violent behaviors reported by multiple witnesses were made more likely by steroid abuse-related decreased ability to control emotions and to make reasonable decisions.
Okay. Now that opinion, is that made in what we call a reasonable degree of scientific certainty based on your experience and these learned treatises?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Please proceed.
Loss of emotional control and poor decision making are also well established to follow from acute alcohol intoxication. That was also a clear factor in this case, as indicated by blood tests and supported by an extensive bar tab.
Now the bar tab that you saw had it was pretty high bar tab.
I remember a lot of, there were Miller Lights and Fireballs, not that I know what that is.
So we don't know how many he drank. That'd be fair to say from the bar test.
He did not necessarily consume all of what he paid for.
Based on his blood alcohol content, he consumed some.
Oh, I would agree with that, yes.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. Combined effects of steroid abuse and alcohol intoxication more likely than not contributed, perhaps synergistically so, to the result in lack of behavioral inhibition and expression of the extremely aggressive and violent behaviors described by several witnesses.
So is it the behavior, is it the demonstrated behavior that the witnesses related, is that as important as the anatomical findings to this conclusion?
I think it all ties together. It's all equally important. Again, if it was just the steroids found in the truck and not any artery occlusion. I wouldn't think that much of it. If there was no witness reports of violent behavior, there would be no issue at all.
Conversely, if there was arterial sclerosis and no steroids, you wouldn't link these.
Yeah, that would just be really odd. That would be a very unlucky 33-year-old that is remarkably rare.
Okay. So this last opinion, the combined effect of steroid abuse, that in that paragraph you read, is that an opinion that you offer within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty in your field of pharmacology?
Yes.
Doctor, I want to shift gears a little bit with you. Do you recall when you were deposed by Attorney Hannah, she kind of gets you out of left field with some questions about other drugs that you might use and the effects?
Yes.
Did you have any idea what she was asking those questions?
There was some questions about lithium and an antipsychotic drug and benzodiazepines, and I didn't know why, and it's just kind of some interesting questions, especially about lithium.
You know what we call that? A lawyer hires an expert witness, and then the expert witness is in a deposition, and the lawyer on the other side starts asking these questions about their side of the case. We call that, at least I call that, hijacking the expert. It had nothing to do with anything you reviewed, did it?
No, I really had no idea where that was coming from.
And you hadn't reviewed anything about my clients.
No, just those 6 items, very limited amount of information.
I want to talk to you about the questions you got from Attorney Hannah about lithium. Okay? Have you seen this bottle that I've given you
Yes.
before? You've seen it before,
Yes,
right?
yes. So this is
I sent you a picture of it. Is that
right, a supplement that
Tell us what it is.
it's a dietary supplement, lithium orotate, and so this is something that you can get maybe at your drugstore, maybe at a vitamin store or GNC if they still have those.
Or Amazon.
Oh yeah, you can order it online, of course. And so this is a form of lithium, and the scuttlebutt, I guess I'll use that term, is that this is going to help decrease anxiety and make you feel better. And there's lots of supplements that make those types of claims. This is not an FDA-approved drug.
Is it a dangerous drug?
Pardon me?
Is it a dangerous drug?
I wouldn't say it's a dangerous drug, not at this dosage.
Well, let's talk.
Actually, you could consume this entire bottle and it wouldn't be up to an antipsychotic dose.
Well, I think you gave me a figure of what that dose, how that dosage in that. What is the dosage in those pills?
These are 5 milligram lithium. I don't know if they're capsules or tablets. I haven't looked at them.
If someone had a therapeutic dose of lithium on the lowest end, what would the lowest end lithium dosage be at the therapeutic level?
Low end for treatment of bipolar is about 1,000 milligrams a day.
And that's 200 times, 200 of those pills
That's right.
would equal 1
Yeah.
lithium, the minimum lithium dose for somebody
right.
who had a bipolar disorder. Now, you don't know anything about my client's medical
No.
concerns, right? And you didn't know why you were getting these questions.
No.
But is this particular lithium factor in any way, if I submit to you, because you don't know, that if my client were taking it, would it have anything to do with an impulsive reaction by my client?
I wouldn't. No. I think this is, and I might be kind of flip here, but this is a placebo, and placebo is very effective drug, remarkably effective, especially in humans. And so placebo is a sugar pill. And if you think it's going to do something, our brains have a way of making things happen that we believe are going to happen. And so I think that these types of drugs fall into that category.
Would a person who had a well-balanced diet benefit from the diet as much as that supplement?
Diet is way more important.
Very good. So if that's the lithium you were being asked about, do you see how it should be related to this case in any way?
I really don't. And so, of course, I was thinking of lithium citrate is the salt form that's given for bipolar at a much higher dose, and that's a very toxic drug, and that's a serious drug, and a very effective drug. We're lucky to have it.
But nothing that you reviewed had anything to do with lithium, did it?
No,
And so you had no idea why you were asking the question.
I did not. Yeah, that took me from the side, and that and the benzodiazepine and the antipsychotic, and I was thinking, why am I being asked about this antipsychotic drug?
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Do you recall after that I sent you a clinical synopsis from Dr. Hannah Cloak,
Yes,
and it referred to some of these other drugs.
it did. So all of them were there, and so then it made sense.
And how did that make sense?
It made sense that the person that you're representing was taking these drugs, this as a supplement, the other drugs as anxiety treatment.
And did you notice anything about the dosage levels?
Fairly low doses, and so a antipsychotic drug is a very good sedative across the board.
The sleep aid?
It's a sleep aid, that's right, at low dose.
Okay. Your indulgence? Doctor, I'm not going to ask you any questions at this time. In addition, the court may have some, or these attorneys may have some, and I may as response to theirs.
Mr. Martin, anything?
Nothing, Mayor.
Very well. Mr. Tinsley? I'm sorry. Miss Hannah?
Dr. Soderstrom, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You and I had the pleasure of meeting when I took your deposition by
Yes.
Zoom about 6 months ago. Is that right?
I remember, yes.
Okay, and I believe you told me at that time this is the first time you've ever been an expert witness. Is
That's
that
correct,
right?
yes.
So the first time in a courtroom.
That's correct. Yeah, this is the first time I've been in a courtroom. That's absolutely correct.
And I believe you know Mr. Moss. Maybe you teach his
I met
daughter.
him this morning. He called the chair of my department looking for somebody to explain the NMS Labs report. And I'm the guy to do that sort of thing in our department. And so he was referred to me.
Okay, and you're not a medical doctor, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and you would agree with me that a pathologist that actually did the autopsy of Scott Spivey would certainly be more qualified than you to render an opinion about whether the heart had any impact as a result of chronic steroid abuse, right?
Well, maybe. If somebody is going to claim that a 50% occlusion of the coronary artery isn't related to steroid abuse, I would have to disagree with that.
Okay, but she didn't render that opinion like you
Right.
did, correct? Okay. And you've never performed a forensic toxicology,
That's true.
okay? And your research, I believe, I saw that big list of things that you wrote about. And isn't it true, Dr. Soderstrom, that most of your research is on songbirds and I believe THC effects on brain development?
Right. So,
Okay. But it's not human forensic pathology, right?
well, it's, of course, we're trying to understand humans, and the reason we use birds, it sounds crazy, but they learn how to sing when they're young, like we learn how to talk when we're young. And so my research is really focused on development and how the brain changes during development.
But it's not about steroid abuse, is it?
Well, I've done some steroid research.
You have, I believe, in your deposition, you told me most of your research came from internet forums, is that right?
Yeah, so, well, in terms of figuring out how this drug is typically abused. So that's, I think, how you find out how to use abuse steroids. You talk to the guys at the gym, and there are these internet forums, and it's remarkable the amount of information you can get from that source.
Remarkable. I think you said that earlier. In fact, I think you said you looked at little evidence, but it was remarkable how it all fell together.
Well, then I was talking about, how the steroid was found in the truck. Didn't think much of it until seeing, now we have a autopsy that shows a coronary artery occlusion and liver toxicity.
I'm going to get to that.
Oh.
I'll get to that.
So it all kind of came together. That's what I was talking about there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, you've also never clinically treated a patient for steroid abuse, never personally assessed a person that had roid rage, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And you've never assessed a person who is being chased at 113 miles an hour by somebody with guns out, have you?
I have not.
First time. Okay.
Well, I would say that I still haven't.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Dr. Soderstrom, isn't it true that you've been hired by this defense team over here by Mr. Moss, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we have an agreement.
so everything you've reviewed in this case has been solely based on what Mr. Moss gave you?
That is correct.
You didn't get anything from the
No.
plaintiff's side, did you?
That's absolutely correct.
Hadn't
You're
received
right.
anything from me or Mr. Tinsley, right?
Nope.
You haven't talked to his mama, his daddy, his sister, nobody in his family to find out his medical history, have you?
Nope. I have. There are, a lot of things I don't know about in this case.
That's right. And in fact, you never even asked for these records, and you don't know anything about Scott Spivey's medical history, do you?
I have no idea.
But you've come to a conclusion based on some things you saw in a report about his heart that he's a chronic steroid abuser.
That's right.
Okay, got it. So let me just keep going. You've never seen his medication list, any medications, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And I believe you even admitted to me that you have never seen a picture of Scott Spivey's autopsy photos, correct?
That's correct.
And you never even seen a picture of his family photo album to see that he doesn't even look like a steroid abuser at any time, right?
Well, I don't know what a steroid abuser would look like.
Well, actually you do, because in that deposition you also told me that you would expect a steroid abuser to be big and muscular and have a large overture in his shoulders, right?
If I were to, predict, and this would be a risky prediction, I would say this is probably somebody that works out at the gym and is interested in physical fitness and appearance. That would fit. That would, why would somebody abuse steroids? That's why somebody would abuse steroids.
So you would conclude if somebody that doesn't look like they've gone to the gym would not be a steroid abuser, right?
I would say that that's probably, that reduces the probability.
Very good. You also were never provided, I know that you were provided with like 5 witness statements, right?
Was it 5 or 6? It was
Fair
one of those 2.
But you weren't provided with deposition testimony of either Mr. Boyd or Mr. Williams, were you?
I was not.
Okay, so I assume you weren't provided with any of the secret recorded conversations that Mr. Boyd made on his phone, right?
No.
And the only witness statement you reviewed, the only evidence you reviewed is what Mr. Moss hand-selected to give to you to review to come to this opinion.
That's right.
Now, let's talk about those pills in the truck. Isn't it true, Dr. Soderstrom, that your entire opinion is assuming that those pills that were found in that truck belong to Scott Spivey?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that you don't know if Scott Spivey possessed those pills or if somebody put them there in his truck, do you?
I don't know, but I think the probability is it's likely that they were his and that he put them in the truck. I would say that's true.
Did you know that Weldon Boyd, the man that shot Scott Spivey, went up to Scott Spivey's truck unsupervised at least 2 times before the police got there?
I had no idea about that.
Were you aware that Officer Vescovi, one of the first officers on the scene, showed Weldon Boyd and Kenneth Williams a note that said, "Act like a victim" in front of the camera?
I had no idea about that. I think you asked me that question during my deposition.
And you're aware that then you know that Officer Viscovi got terminated after that?
I didn't know about that, no.
Okay. So if it were later determined that those pills found in Scott Spivey's truck didn't belong to him because he wasn't a user, then that would totally change your opinion, wouldn't it?
Well, I just can't imagine why somebody would do that, because they would have to know that he had this coronary artery disease. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. Because if it was just the steroid in there again, that it would be an odd thing, but it wouldn't be one odd thing after another odd thing after another odd thing. That, together.
We're going to get to that. Now, let's talk about no steroids found in Mr. Spivey's system. So you understand that the toxicology testing was done, and they did a urine test, and they ran it through, I think the toxicologist said about 30 tests, 27, 30 tests.
They do one test, and they are looking for 30 different metabolites of various anabolic steroids.
And there was nothing found, nothing about anabolic steroids, correct?
And that, that doesn't bother me in terms of the other evidence for long-term abuse.
Well, wouldn't you expect somebody riding around with a big old pile of steroid pills, they would be taking them?
Yeah, and probably a couple weeks prior.
But there was nothing found in Scott's
Correct.
system, was there?
There was, and the urine was dilute. I think there's clear evidence for steroid abuse, steroids are abused cyclically, and the lack of chronic exposure doesn't indicate a lack of abuse.
Well, let's talk about what you just said about the heart, okay? I believe your entire opinion relates entirely on your reading of the autopsy report, right?
That's right.
Okay, and I think you're blocking it up to like 3 things, because he had coronary artery disease, liver abnormalities, and gallbladder staining. You think that's why he was a chronic steroid abuser?
Those are very characteristic side effects of the drug that was found in his truck.
Okay, but you never looked at his past medical records to see if there's some other explanation other than that conclusion.
That's correct.
Could be metabolic syndrome, right? That could explain it, couldn't it?
I would say that it would take longer to form that level of blockage.
Okay, what about poor lifestyle and poor diet? That could cause of those 3 things that you just mentioned.
That would speed things along.
Right. And most importantly, genetic predisposition could explain all 3 of those things that you just relied on to form this opinion.
It would speed things along. But in a 33-year-old, it's extremely rare to have that level of coronary artery blockage.
I believe you called it unlucky earlier, correct?
Right.
And would it surprise you to know that Scott has a family history of heart attacks, early heart attacks, heart stents, and a documented family history of high cholesterol and even kidney disease?
No, that wouldn't surprise me.
Right, because that's a better explanation
Well,
than that this man was a chronic steroid abuser, right?
So, keep in mind that not every chronic steroid abuser gets coronary artery occlusion. About 15% do. And, my thinking would be it's that 15% that have these family backgrounds and are more likely to have the issue become a problem.
Okay, you also relied on a VAC of 0.13.
Yes.
Okay, and you know that was drawn from the heart almost 60 hours after Scott died. Correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and then you also noticed that the samples were taken more than 3 days later, right?
3 days later. Did I see it about 3 days later? I knew that there was a time difference, but looking into, like what the toxicologist said, that's not uncommon that there would be a lag in between the sampling and the testing.
Okay. Dr. Soderstrom, going back to your opinion on behavior, you said you only looked at 5 witness statements, right?
That's right.
You weren't given Frank McMurray's deposition or Blaze Ward or anybody else's, correct?
Deposition.
Yes, sir.
So that was different than their witness statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, I only saw the witness statement, I guess.
So you really don't have a lot of evidence, and I think your own words were you looked at little evidence, right?
That's true.
Okay. So your opinion is that the behavior described in those witness statements was consistent with road rage?
I would say road rage.
Road rage or road
Yeah,
rage?
I would say road rage.
Fair
And I would say that, the behavioral problems there were made more likely by alcohol for sure, and probably synergistic with persistent changes in behavior due to steroid use.
And I believe you admitted that you were not aware that this is a 113 mile per hour chase, correct?
That's true. I didn't know about that.
So when you rendered this opinion, you did not consider the psychological impact of Scott Spivey being chased, did you?
No, I did not.
So you didn't consider that maybe what you thought you were thinking or seeing was really actions of Scott Spivey that were driven by panic, or maybe even a fight or flight response?
I would say what happened was consistent with that type of fight or flight sort of situation.
And you would agree with me that if someone's trying to flee and going that fast and can't get away, that they may feel trapped, right?
I would say that might be true, yeah.
Okay, so the same behavior that you're attributing to Scott Spivey could equally be explained by normal human fear, perhaps somebody that is being chased and was even terrified, right?
I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I think I mentioned this before, but you were never provided with recordings that Weldon Boyd made himself, that were made on his phone after the Spivey shooting.
That's right.
So were you aware that in one of those recordings, Boyd stated, when referring to shooting Scott Spivey, "I fucking loved it and I had a blast"?
Didn't have any of that sort of thing. I am unaware of that.
Right? Because you weren't given these, right?
I was not given anything to that effect at all.
And were you aware that Boyd told his own grandmother that he was back in his element when referring to shooting Scott Spivey?
I don't know anything about that.
So the person who made these statements, Mr. Boyd, was expressing excitement and
I'm like to
joy.
object to discontinuing my questions because the witnesses definitely testified what he relied on, what he was asked to do. And here we are again, hijacking an expert to talk about my client.
I think it's outside scope of expertise as well, so let's move on.
Certainly.
You made a very nice cross-examination.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Mr. Moss asked you about some questions we talked about the medications that Mr. Boyd was on, correct?
Right.
Okay, and those medications, I believe you testified about what happens when someone's taking Seroquel, Zoloft, and Klonopin inconsistently or irregularly. Tell us what happens.
Well, if they're given for antipsychosis issues, and my understanding now, I've gotten a little bit more information since when you were asking me these questions before, the dosages were lower. So, what was being treated is not schizophrenia, it's anxiety. And so the antipsychotic is being given at a lower dose as a sedative.
Okay, and isn't it true when you're taking these antipsychotic medications, I believe you told me it can affect emotional regulation, impulse control, and risk assessment capabilities?
I think, as I recall, you were asking me what would happen if somebody was taking these drugs and abruptly discontinued them. And, what I implied there was these were drugs being used to treat a psychosis and at a high dose. And if you are being treated for schizophrenia, you don't want to stop your drugs abruptly. because all those bad things that you mentioned may happen.
And you also confirmed that inconsistent use of these antipsychotic drugs, especially benzodiazepines like Klonopin, can lead to, I believe your words were, you agreed with me, unpredictable behavioral states, even altered states of consciousness.
With a benzodiazepine, is going to be a CNS depressant. If you stop taking a benzodiazepine that you've been taking for a long time, you will have a rebound. And so why would you take a benzodiazepine for a long time if you were psychotic or had anxiety to the point that you were having behavioral trouble? And so you knock that, that drug would just decrease CNS activity. You'd be putting the person kind of to sleep. When you would, if you were to completely stop that quickly, you go back into maybe a rebound phase of whatever problem it was that you were given the drug to alleviate to begin with.
Okay, and that would be evident in somebody with a history of anger issues and anger management issues.
Well, so usually a benzodiazepine is given for anxiety, and it's not given for regular use. If you're given a benzodiazepine for regular use, it's somebody that needs to be knocked down. So usually the way a benzodiazepine is given is as you need it. If you're having an episode of anxiety, you take it. Or if you couldn't stop thinking about things and couldn't get any sleep, you might take it. So it's more a PRN or as needed sort of medication.
Okay. Let's move on to the lithium that Mr. Moss asked you about, and if I may approach your
Sure.
So this lithium right here, this is just stuff, it's a dietary supplement,
That's right. Yes.
Okay, and he asked you a lot of questions about if Mr. Boyd were taking that over-the-counter dietary supplement. But I want to ask you about prescription lithium. You're a
Okay.
pharmacologist, you teach this, right?
Yep.
So over-the-counter lithium, those dietary supplements that Mr. Moss was asking you about, that doesn't require blood work to be prescribed for that, correct?
That's right, and that's
Okay. And so let me show you some text messages from June 2023 from Weldon Boyd, where he indicates that I am on the way to the lab in Myrtle now to get blood work for lithium. And got blood work done today, so lithium starts soon. Let me show those to you.
all right. Yeah, that would be consistent with lithium for the treatment of a bipolar type of issue.
And if they're prescribed that for this bipolar, that would be the reason he's getting blood work for lithium, correct?
Objection, this doctor has no knowledge of that. He's saying no, he has no knowledge of that.
You can go ahead and answer.
If somebody is being treated with lithium at a high dose, it's very important to get blood work done because it's a narrow therapeutic window drug. It is a very toxic drug, and you can overdo it really easily. And so you have to kind of titrate the dosage of lithium, and that's why you get blood work done when you're starting it.
So no question, those text messages where you see that Mr. Boyd is getting tested for lithium is definitely not that dietary supplement, correct?
I don't know. It suggests that it wasn't this lithium that.
Correct.
But maybe did he? I don't. Did he overdose on this? I can't imagine even overdosing on it. You'd have to take the whole bottle.
So, Dr. Sotomayor, So to Strom, I apologize. You were not given Mr. Boyd's prescription records or medical records, right?
That's right.
So you cannot tell this court, based on the one-sided materials that you were given, that the opinion that you described for Scott Spivey doesn't apply equally or more to Weldon Boyd.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any other person than the person that was in the autopsy.
Just one moment, I beg the court's indulgence, Your Honor. Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Got some read your record, Your Honor? Doctor,
Yes.
do you know how long the effects of anabolic steroids last in one's brain after they stop taking them? Was it days or weeks?
Yep, even longer.
How long?
Persistent, years.
So this disconnect, if you will, between these two regions of the brain, that can, where your frontal region is not inhibiting impulses and the other regions, can last for years?
That can be a long time, yeah.
Okay. Now, this demonstrated conduct that we talked about, Attorney Hannah talked about driving at 113 miles an hour. And she asked if that's consistent with fight or flight. Do you know anything about this case, do you?
I know very little.
You don't know if there was any reason that this gentleman was cornered for you?
I suspect there was a trigger, and I've always kind of wondered about this trigger. I don't know what started it.
You have no idea, do you?
I have no idea.
And so you have no idea whether or not fight or flight could even be in play here, do you?
I don't know.
And this driving of less than 113 miles an hour, you have no idea why he was driving that fast, do you?
I don't. You know, all I have are the witness statements that
Okay.
are consistent, and
Yeah.
you know, based on those statements, you know, there was an aggressor, and that was the person in the black truck.
So, and Ms. Hannah deposed you, right, by Zoom, and that time you gave her all of your information, right? She had your report, she had your opinion, your CV, she knew how to contact you. She never sent you anything from Mr. Spivey's records. and
That's
asked you to
correct,
Please
yes.
review this and address your opinion issue.
I would have dealt with that material had it been provided, yes.
In fact, I provided you some supplemental information from NMS Labs, is that right?
That's correct.
And what, it was a more detailed report, right?
Right.
And with respect to this issue about whether or not this alcohol concentration could have been accelerated or increased post-mortem, did you find anything that was revealing about that?
I did. That was a huge document, but there was a needle in that haystack, and that was they tested for volatiles. And among those volatiles were...
Could you explain what the volatile is?
A volatile is something that will turn to vapor at fairly low temperature, like ethanol's volatile. And a lot of oils are volatile. And so isopropanol is a alcohol that was detected, and acetone was detected. So these are volatiles, and these volatiles are produced, let's see, how did that work again? Were those detected or not detected?
Well, let me ask you this way. Do you recall anything in the lab report that made you think the decomposition
Right.
or accelerated higher
So,
alcohol
yeah, you would expect volatiles to be present if it was microorganisms that were increasing the alcohol content, and those volatiles were not detected. I think I have that right now.
Let me show you this document, Doctor. Your Honor, the Honor has this already, as does opposing counsel. I don't want it to be a court exhibit, but I want to show it to the witness. Have you seen this before, Doctor?
Yes.
What is it?
This is a description from a nurse practitioner of treating this person that I believe you're representing
Okay.
for anxiety.
Okay. And could you read with me the next to the last paragraph?
So
And the last sentence starts with instead.
Okay.
You see that?
Oh, goodness, my eyes are not that good.
Instead, I've recommended.
Well, no, I see Mr. Boyd has been complying with treatment recommendations. Do you mean before that? In my
Let me help.
clinical assessment and treatment of
Let me
Mr.
help
Boyd?
you. Next to the last paragraph, I'm looking down in,
So is that this one? That's next to the
May-
last,
may I
if you
see yours?
consider that, sure.
right down here in this paragraph.
Okay,
I'll refer you to that paragraph.
all right.
Now, you
So,
reviewed this before today, right?
I'm sorry, can you say
You
that one?
reviewed it before today, right?
Yes.
And you reviewed it specifically in conjunction with my question about that dietary
About the-
supplement. didn't you?
Yes.
So what did the clinician say in this clinical synopsis?
That this was being given as a supplement with the idea that it would help anxiety.
But it says, instead, I have recommended the use of lithium orotate, an over-the-counter nutritional supplement to help alleviate symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder. Is that what it said?
That's right.
Now, you said it was a placebo,
That's my personal opinion.
but you also said that placebos are very
It's
effective.
remarkably effective, yes.
Is this dietary supplement a therapeutic level of lithium?
No,
You see anything to make you think that my client has a therapeutic level of lithium?
I have not.
You've not been asked for that opinion, have you?
No.
Do you think it's fair for someone to ask you a question about my client's medical condition or record when you haven't talked to my client?
Is it fair? I suppose.
That's kind of an unfair question, because
I withdraw it.
it's done the same thing the other way.
I withdraw it. All right. Let me show you this document. It's also been produced, Your Honor, but I don't want it to be a court exhibit. You haven't seen this document before, I don't believe.
I have not.
Take a moment and scan it and tell me if you see lithium on it anywhere.
I do not.
And what does it say it is at the top? It's a pharmacy record, isn't it?
Cherry Grove Drug, LLC.
And what period of time is it for?
Let's see, looks like July 2020 to May of 2025.
Okay, and we're talking about
5
almost
years.
5 years.
Yeah.
No lithium, right?
No.
I think you may have that copy. I recall earlier today a conversation with you when you talked about this kind of conduct and age group you might see it in.
Yes.
We're talking about steroids, right?
Right.
And the effect in the brain.
Yeah.
What do you recall telling me as an example?
Example might be teenager. This is kind of the last period of development where we don't really have this type of executive control, and if somebody's going to have this sort of behavioral problem, it's typically going to be a teenager.
Okay. And we were talking about Mr. Spivey, weren't we? Just demonstrating
Well-
behavior of driving at excessive speed.
Okay.
in traffic.
Okay.
Is that normal in your opinion for a 33-year-old adult?
Right. That I would say is not right. Typically, we've matured and we have control by that time.
Let me go back to this pharmacy record, doctor. Take a look. These other conditions that Attorney Hannah asked you about, that if you had therapeutic dosages of some of these medicines like benzodiazepines or seroquel, chloroquine, they would require dosages that were consistent with therapeutic treatment, right?
They would, and I don't, off the top of my head, I'd have to look into what the standard dosages were, and I don't know, just looking at this, if these fall into that range or not.
Very well. But you don't know that they do either.
That's true.
Okay. Thank you, Doc. Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor. I'd ask that this witness be excused if there are more for you.
Very well. Doctor, thank you for coming. Safe travels back to Greenville.
Thank you.
Your Honor, just one housekeeping matter. I have 2 exhibits I did not mark. If I may mark those now.
Sure.
Yes,
Mark
thank
those.
you.
Does he have them?
I think so.
Yeah. 2 documents she gave you, is what she's wanting to make sure she has.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right.
One more thing.